I'd like to thank the grace of heaven, the virtue of our masters, and compassion of our predecessors and transmitters that I have this opportunity to present to you the 18th Patriarch. Okay, so usually they have if you listen to the Dharma class, Grace of Heaven? Is it Grace of Heaven? Yeah, Grace of Heaven. Yeah, that you have all these pictures and all that stuff, but I decided to not use pictures, just make it simple. Okay, so first of all, our 18th Patriarch is, of course, Tianran Gufu, or Zhang Tianran, because his last name is Zhang. Okay, and Tianran is just the name that was given to him after he left this world. Okay, so all right, so but unfortunately in Chinese there are like many different names that's given to you. Okay, his birth name was Kui Sen. Okay, Zhang Kui Sen. Okay, and there's a courtesy name. I guess the courtesy name is something like very much like a gift. No, not
It's a
not
name of
nickname.
respect and
Yeah,
reverence.
right. It's named. It's more like a title, if
Yeah,
anything.
yeah, yeah.
But
Similar.
it's similar to like a title, but it's a name more like a professional name, official name. Sometimes you want to call it that.
Well, like for example, use an example, Bodhidharma, right? When
Yeah.
he passed on the mandate to, we say Sen Guang, right?
Yeah, right.
Sen Guang was not his, I don't know what's his given name. It was his title, I think. Then Hui Ke was his name, right? Isn't Hui Ke is his name? And then after he received the mandate and he got the back, he converted. He received it out. You can say he changed his name to Sen Guang. Sen Guang would be like his courtesy name,
right.
or his title.
Which is right. So that's why in if you notice in our basically our incantations for the receiving the Tao ceremony, we have Zhang Guang Bi. So that's the Guang Bi.
Oh.
That's the Guang Bi.
Yeah.
Right
It's
here.
not his real name. But
It's not his real name. It's not
Okay,
his.
Or birth name.
It's not his birth
Question.
name.
So when a person receives a Tao and they have a courtesy name and a birth name, so which one should they be?
You should be using your birth name.
Birth name. Okay.
Yeah, because the birth name is the one really that is recorded, because that's your
In
birth.
another world.
Right, right. So, but in the Qing Jia Ding En Zhang Guang Bi Sun Hui Ming, that part, okay, that's the way the Guang Bi comes from. Okay, okay. And then of course religious name is when he was basically given the title by Lao Mu when he passed away. So therefore, well, when he returned to heaven, more like, okay. And so that's where the Tianran comes from. Okay, and then sometimes he's called the Gong Chang Zu, right? The Gong Chang Zu. That's basically because the Gong Chang means Zhang. It's combined together is Zhang. That's why it's Gong Chang Zu. Okay, and then of course he's also known as Si Zun. That's it. Okay, so basically he was born in August 8th, 1889. Okay, and he passed away in 29 September 1947. Okay, basically that was birthday is like the 19th day lunar, that is 19th of the 7th month. Okay, and it was during the 15th year of the Qing Emperor Guangxu. Okay, it was said that at the the stories are that during the time of his birth, in Beijing there was this what's called the heavenly temple that it sort of caught fire or something like that. It was blazed, and therefore it's causing the sky to glow red. And then also it is said that the Yellow River, it happened to be clear on that day. Okay, and those are essentially signs. They say that some saint or Buddha has come into this world. Okay, all right. What's also unusual about him is that I've never seen this before, but people say that he had double pupils.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Now, I've never seen that before, so I don't know, what does even a double pupil look like?
I'm not two
I
pupils.
think it means actually
Yeah.
Double
iris.
line.
Yeah, right. It's in other words, yeah. It's not two pupils like in when you see the movie, The Mummy. The Mummy.
Mummy.
in the movie The Mummy.
There were two people?
The demon or not the demon, the devil, if you will, whatever. When she incarnates, she has like double pupils. Her pupil goes like into two. But no,
Really?
it's not that. Yeah.
I don't remember
But anyway, that's in the movie. Anyway, but in his case, it's more like what Lecture Tai says. It's really like double irises. Okay. So, but even then, I've never seen that before.
Yeah, double iris.
Yeah, it's
I
kind
wonder
of.
if he can
Yeah.
see better than us.
You
No,
mean
no.
like open up like this, two?
Yeah,
Open
there's
up
like-
there's
yeah.
another one in the middle.
No,
Is that what you mean?
no,
Maybe
the iris is the
overlap.
colored part, so you have two rings.
Yeah, it's possible.
Like two lines,
Two rings.
two rings.
Well, the iris is also the one that opens and
Is that
closes.
like cat's
Yeah,
eye?
I thought, whatever that part is.
Does he wear glasses?
No, he does not wear
Oh,
glasses
see?
as far as he was
That's why he
concerned.
can see X-ray. X-ray vision.
I don't know.
Super
But anyway, he had, and also supposedly he has like a flat top, more of a flat top head. Usually when you have a
like a cone.
bald, even a bald head, it's look like a crown. I mean, not a crown, but a cone, like a
It's
cone.
oval, right?
Yeah,
Oval.
it's oval cone. Yeah, but he's more like flat. Okay, but anyway, those are just
Some
stories,
special
descriptions about.
qualities.
Okay. Anyway, so where was he born? He was born in the city of Jining, Jining in Shandong province. So that's why in Shandong today it's known as the province is known as like the saintly province because there's so many Buddhas and saints born in Shandong. Okay. All right. Has anybody been in Shandong, by the way? No. Well, I have. I just only went through visit, so didn't see much. Okay.
Did you
So-
go to his birthplace?
No, I did. At that time, I didn't know. But it's interesting that even when I was there, I was told that there are still people who like are Dao Kin, even though it's communist today, etc. But they were still Dao Kin.
Serious?
Yeah, and they do so like quietly anyway. They still do quietly like have their own ceremonies, etc. But
So
it's,
they know the three churches too?
yeah, I guess But again.
Maybe that took place in the modern time.
It's possible. I was there. I was in Shandong in like 2006, around 2006 area time frame, and
Interesting.
as far as I could tell, it was a nice place. I flew into Shandong from Shanghai, but it seems a little bit rural, but also city. Just some city. Okay. So anyway, so basically, that's pretty much we know about him during that time. Okay. So now about his life. Interesting. Okay, yeah. When I was going through all the literature about him, it was kind of interesting. Okay, he was he married at the age of 19. Okay, and yeah, and that's because in those days, and this traditional Chinese, there's arranged marriages. Okay, so therefore, probably in those days, he was that was the case. Oh, by the way, not told here was the fact that he was he's fairly well educated. He was very well educated. So he went to school. He grew up in probably what we today would call a middle class family. So he was pretty well educated and learned. Okay. So anyway, but and at the age of 19, in 1908, he married to a person named Zhu. Okay, last name Zhu, who unfortunately after a year after marriage she died.
Oh.
So it's kind of strange, Okay, and then he remarried. I guess they rearranged a second wife for him, named Liu. 2 years later, at the age of 21. Okay. Now, some sources say he had 12 children. Okay.
Yeah, that many kids?
I have to admit I don't know, but which one was who I don't know, but some sources stated 12 children. I said, oh, that's kind of interesting. Okay, so anyway, so after he got married and all that stuff, he left home and traveled to Nanjing and Shanghai. I guess whether to probably do business or had some interests in business. Okay, and then apparently it wasn't that successful. But anyway, so at the age of 24, okay, so now this is in 19. Let's see. 5 years later, so 13, around 13. Okay, just before before World War I even. He joined the army and was initiated in the Tao in some records say 1914, some says 1915. Okay, after meeting transmitter Zhu. So when he apparently received the Tao, at that time there was already people, because remember at this time the 17th Patriarch was already around. Okay, even though 17th Patriarch was in Jining, I think it was in Jining. Yeah, right. 17th. So because he was born in Jining, okay, obviously there was some
Affinity.
yeah, some affinity. Okay. So anyway, so in 1914 or 15, at the age of 25 or 26, he met transmitter Zhu, who then introduced him to the Tao. Okay. So how he got interested in the Tao was because of the fact that his father had passed away when he was still very young. Okay. So and he being a very filial person, found out that okay, in this Tao you have the and because of the fact that filial piety is one of the hallmarks of Tao, he basically found out that hey, you have this ability to uplift your father, mother, okay, whatever, okay, and so therefore what happened was that he, that's how he became interested in it. But before he actually received the Tao, was initiated into the Tao, he was a little bit hesitant. So what happened is that he then first asked his mom to join or to find out about the Tao and see, how, whether it was, I don't know, worthwhile or not. And it was only after that she got initiated that she told him that, oh, okay, yeah, it's pretty good, it's not bad, it's a good learning experience or whatever. Okay, so that's how then he became interested and therefore got initiated into Tao. Okay, then because he was very filial, so therefore, and the main reason why he wanted to get initiated was because of the fact that of this uplifting. So therefore, he started basically putting a lot of effort into trying to initiate, or not initiate, but to introduce people to the Tao. Okay, because remember, you're supposed to have merit, to uplift and all that stuff. So what happened was then that according to the regulations at that time under the 17th Patriarch, in order for one to be able to uplift someone, you need to have like 100 merits equivalent, or meaning the fact that you need to introduce or have 100 people initiate into the Tao. Okay, so therefore, try as he might, he couldn't do that. Okay, so he got stuck at 64. Okay, and so therefore, he kept trying to do it, but he just couldn't get beyond that 64 number. And so therefore he then talked to his transmitter, and his transmitter then said, well, there's nothing I can do about it, because the rules are set for 100, but he goes, yeah, but, I know you're very, putting a lot of effort into it. So therefore he probably told him, they said, okay, we'll go to talk to the 17th Patriarch, see if an exception could be made. Okay. And so therefore, when he spoke to because he had to go through his transmitter to speak to the 17th Patriarch, obviously. Okay, so therefore, when he went to see the 17th Patriarch, he himself says, well, it's, the rules are set, not much can be done about it. Okay, but, apparently, through some coincidence or something, at that time, they also had a sand writing ceremony happening. Okay. Now, during this time, the sand writing ceremony was something that they already had. Okay. Remember, 16th Patriarch, he asked who he should pass on the transmission to, or the mandate to, and it was through sand writing, and then also prior to that. So in fact, sand writing actually, according to some literature, says the fact that during the time of the Zhou dynasty, this is before Confucius' time, okay, and then, but again, it's done differently, where you actually have two people holding a stylus, as opposed to today. Now we just have one person doing the writing, right? Holding the stylus is basically the stick that writes in the sand. Okay, and this in the latter Zhou dynasty area time, because I think it really started with like the Taoist religion, Taoism. Taoism had the ability to do sand writing. Okay, so but anyway, the Taoism as in not the Tao, but Taoism, the religion. Okay, so anyway, but the point is this. So he basically, the 17th Patriarch said, okay, why not ask, since these are set rules, let's see if God can change it, whatever. And sure enough, in the side writing, basically, Lao Mu, or heaven, basically decreed that, okay, from now on, you can now have 64 as the number of merits you need to, or initiates needed to uplift a parent. So from that time on, you only now require 64 people to uplift. Okay, so that's how that got changed. Okay, so anyway, so he basically, because of that, he was very happy and he uplifted his parents, etc. Okay, and then in 1920, his transmitter 2, passed away. Okay, and so therefore, at that time, I don't believe he was yet a transmitter yet. Okay, I don't believe he was transmitted yet. Okay, and it's actually not clear in the literature when he actually became a transmitter, whether he became a transmitter on the day that he received the mandate or what. Okay, but anyway, so regardless, in 1920, his transmitter passed away, so he really was, in a way, at a loss of like who he should follow. Now, because the fact that he had already met the 17th Patriarch, then 17th Patriarch, got to know him a little bit more, and therefore he sort of like followed, how, sort of like determined from his conduct, the way he conducted himself, etc. That he, if his transmitter has passed away, then perhaps he can follow him, the 17th Patriarch. So remember, the 17th Patriarch's hometown is Jining, okay, at that time. Okay, so he decided to then follow the 17th Patriarch. Okay, now the 17th Patriarch then, of course, passed away in 1925. Okay, so, and at that time, when he passed away, he did not name a successor. Okay, and of course, he actually had about like 25 disciples, but there was like only 8 senior disciples. Okay, or probably even at that time transmitters. Okay, because that's where the literature is not so clear. It's possible that because his senior disciples possibly were transmitters, were transmitters themselves, and our 18th Patriarch happened to be one of them, okay? But he was the most junior of the 8 senior disciples, okay? So, but anyway, so after he passed away, okay, he followed 17th Patriarch's sister for 6 years. Now, why did he do that? Okay, when the 17th Patriarch passed away, he didn't name the successor. So there was a lot of like saying curiosity, I guess you want to call it, that who was going to be the next leader. Okay, and because at that time there was no understanding yet at that time of like whether the patriarch would continue on, lineage would continue on or eventually stop. Okay, so when the 17th Patriarch passed away, he didn't name a successor. So therefore, people then began wanting to find this, especially the senior disciples wanted to find out, what should they do. So of course, through sand writing, they asked heaven to sort of like select someone, and according to heaven, according to heaven, basically each there's a waiting period of 100 days, okay? Because if you notice that whenever one of our, or a leader or someone in the Tao who passed away, you are not able to what we call 结缘, or 结缘 is a reunion. Yeah, right. Reunion. I guess you could say reunion after before 100 days. You cannot do that. You can only do it after, and there must be some reason for that, which I don't know. But anyway, so it was requested, okay, you should wait 100. He will give you a reply 100 days later. Okay, so, and then a few days passed or whatever. Again, I guess there was some urgency or whatever, some reason why they still wanted to find out. Okay, and so therefore, again, they conducted a second sand writing ceremony to ask God this time. And basically, God said something that eventually resulted in what we today have, these different major groups of Tao. Okay, and what heaven said was this. It goes, each of you have 天命, 各有天命 was the phrase. Okay, and meaning that each of us has heaven's mandate. Okay, now of course, which mandate that they're talking about is different, because we all have a mandate to, any one of us have a mandate to what? To propagate the Tao, blah, 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 etc. But of course, what they were thinking about was, of course, the mandate to be a leader, or a mandate to go out and propagate Tao for your, as your own group or whatever like that. So what happened then was that because of that, and it was still before the 100 days were up, that they the seven of the eight senior disciples decided to, okay, since each of us has our own mandate, that means that we can go and transmit the Tao and pass on the Tao, and as well as pass on the mandate to their own transmitters or whatever, eventual transmitter or whatever. Okay, so that's what most of them did. However, these our patriarch, eventual patriarch, 18th patriarch, instead decided to still adhere to the scripture that says, okay, wait 100 days, and after 100 days you'll find out. So what happened then was that after the 100 days, because he did not leave. Instead, he stayed with the 17 patriarch group, if you will. And after 100 days, it was then prophesied that, okay, you know what? There's a time of this is a time of like transition or whatever, and that you will instead follow the 17th patriarch's sister. Okay, now at that time they didn't know for how many years. They didn't say. Okay, at that time they still didn't know. It was just, okay, they should follow instead the 17th patriarch sister. Now the 17th patriarch sister was a sister. She had two sons. She was the one he found after he came down from the mountain, if you will. Remember when he left the 16th patriarch? Okay, he didn't know where to go. Okay, because remember the 16th patriarch was passed away. So therefore, and this group dispersed. Because remember, he himself also, well, some literature says he did, but some literature says he did, that he did not name a successor. Okay, because remember, he just asked for their hands, to examine their hands. The story, I don't know if you remember that story. Okay, because remember, the 16th patriarch has told his disciples, says, okay, we need to name a successor, etc. He didn't know who. So, they did the sand writing, and through the sand writing, it said, okay, you will find the successor when you find the words 合同, okay, in his hands. Now, of course, so the 16th patriarch, did the examination and all that stuff, and our Mila, at that time, 17th patriarch, found out, that, he was the 16th patriarch examining hands. So therefore, he washed his hands and came in and, decided to say, hey, show up to show his hands too. Now, according to some literature, the 16th page just said, oh, okay, so you came too. Okay. But did not really said, oh, okay, you're the new successor. Okay, he didn't. Okay. But some literature also said that, oh, okay, yeah, he did. So like said, oh, okay, you're the one, stipulate that, oh, okay, yeah, I saw your hand. And that was sort of like confirmation that, yeah, okay, he was going to be the next successor. Okay. So anyway, when he left the mountain, the 17th patriarch, the soon-to-be 17th patriarch, he basically did not know where to go. So instead, he went back to look for his sister. Okay, and eventually he found her in Jining. Okay, that's where she was staying. Okay, so her at that time, of course, his sister was also what? The reincarnation of Guan Yin, right? She was also okay. So so anyway, so here it shows that he followed the based on the sand writing. He followed the 16th patriarch sister, and basically he just continued to do what he was doing. Okay. Now, what's interesting about the 17th patriarch? Here I stipulate story of test by whatever.
You put down she's the reincarnation of Bodhisattva. It's not-
叶惠 Bodhisattva, right?
It's not
Oh.
Guan Yin.
Oh, sorry.
It should be Guan Yin.
Yeah, right. It should be Guan Yin. right. Sorry. Yeah, that should be Guan Yin. Okay. At that time, I believe she was still a Bodhisattva. She was not yet Nanhai Gufu. Yeah, she wasn't a Nanhai Gufu yet, because I think it was in 19. Yeah, right. Yeah.
After she left.
Yeah, after she left, right? Because it was in 19.
26.
Probably 20. I don't know exactly what date, but it was only when she Gui Kong, she became Nanhai Gufu. But at that time, she was still Guan Yin. Okay, so okay, but anyway, so now that's clear. Story of test by 17th patriarch as on follows. Okay, one of the things that that I guess with every patriarch they still do the same thing. But one of the things that the patriarch does is they also test their followers' wisdom. Okay, and this is a story about like the meat bun. I don't know if you've heard of it. The meat bun. The meat bun is when the 17th patriarch told his followers saying, practicing Tao and whatever, it's kind of difficult, and so therefore, because we're all vegetarians, he says, we should all just give it up, give up vegetarianism and that's all that stuff. Now at that time, when he was doing this, it is said that he had a problem with his throat, in the sense of some form of illness, and that he couldn't swallow. Okay, but anyway, so the point is that he says, we should all just give up vegetarianism, and he told his cooks to say, let's make some meat buns, and then pass it on to everyone, and then of course everyone was shocked, but the point is that he was trying to test them. He says, look, don't be afraid. He took a bun and he took a bite of it. He took a bite of it. Okay, so and then of course, but the thing is that he couldn't swallow. Remember, he couldn't swallow, and so when people, when his disciples saw him, that some people said, maybe since he ate the bun, we can also eat the bun. So this is where the point of when we need to have the wisdom to what? Instead of following the person, you need to follow the teaching. Okay, that's basically very important. One of the things that, because there's a tendency for people to follow forms, and so therefore, you may say, this is the leader, blah, blah, blah. Okay, since he did that, so guess what? We should be able to do it, right? Because he's the leader. And so instead you follow the form as opposed to follow the teaching. Okay, and this is very interesting, just like it happened also when, like today, example, in vegetarianism, some people still eat eggs, right? Okay, and honey. Eggs, milk, eggs and milk. Okay, now I don't know about the milk part, but why is it that people eat eggs? Okay, it was only because that when Simu, the 18th matriarch, was in Taiwan, she, that's Yue Pusa, right? She basically confined herself when she came to Taiwan. Because of the oppression by the government, if you want to call it that, okay, or the restrictions by the government on the way you could spread the Tao, etc. She basically gave her, imposed, like house arrest almost, and also because it was very hard for the people coming from China to Taiwan, because the economy got collapsed or whatever, that her own health was not very good, and so therefore, as a way to the nurse or the nun that was taking care of her, as a way to try to bring back her health, she gave her eggs to eat because eggs are, I guess, pretty healthy. Okay, protein, nutrition, has a lot of nutrition in it, and it is because of that that some of the groups decide to follow. Oh, okay, so since Simu, the matriarch, ate eggs, so why can't we? No, it was Simu. It was Simu. Yeah, not Sizun.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was.
it was Simu, right?
That's my
Yeah.
recollection.
Because the Sizun already passed away because at that time because it was in Taiwan.
In Taiwan.
She was in Taiwan. Okay. So anyway, so that's why today we have different whatever.
But didn't Holy Teacher also mention we should not eat eggs?
Well, actually,
No,
when
or is it Zhao Jin? Or is it Zhao Jin?
Yeah.
Later.
it was later.
Because
Yeah.
within the
No,
last
but
That's much later. Yeah. When we were in well, this is some years back, maybe like 20 years almost. Okay, 20 years almost. Someone did pose a question because when at that time, Holy Teacher was conducting doing the classes. Remember those times when they were conducting? Now, sometimes we will be here in New York. Sometimes we'll be also in Tongren, our temple, and the same question was posed. Oh.
This is the one, the classes in Elmhurst.
No, yeah, well, that was, yeah, no, in this particular time, it was in Teaneck, New Jersey, our
Oh,
Tongren
okay.
time. But it was, going back and forth. It was going back and forth. And so it was, same question was posed. And what did preacher respond? Any idea? No. Holy Teacher only said, it is best not to eat eggs. That's all.
Best.
He didn't say, no, you cannot. He just said, it is best not to. Okay, so, and basically it follows the principle, okay? You know what the principle is, why you shouldn't kill. And so that, given that understanding, then it just follows that you shouldn't. Because after all, anything that you do is only creating what? Just karma. So, and then it was later on, much later, when Zhao Jun did performed the scripture, that he also mentioned milk and honey, right? Was milk and honey?
Yeah, you mentioned.
Milk and honey, right? Milk and honey, that we now no longer eat that. Because again, it also has to do with the fact that if you really understand the principle, then yeah, eggs are what? A byproduct. But it's really more the fact that you're creating a karma. Because if you look at the Buddha Nature class by Liu Jiangsi, okay, he even talks about the fact that, when you eat vegetables and all that stuff, same thing, because you're what? Having karmic affinity with the plants that grow on the earth. He mentions that, right? Okay. So, but anyway, the point is that if you truly understand this principle, yeah, you should do the utmost you can. Because remember, being a vegetarian does not really eliminate karma, but rather the fact that it eliminates karma of the future only. It doesn't eliminate your past karma. Okay, and also the fact that, yeah, you are trying to what? Detach yourself in a way as much as you can from any karma that keeps you in this world, if you will. Okay, so, and that's according to Liu Jiangsi's Buddha nature.
The milk.
Yeah, milk, because milk is a byproduct of cows, right? Or goats or whatever, depending on what kind of milk you drink. Okay, so therefore, the idea, just like honey, the idea of the fact that you're consuming these products implies the fact that what? You are taking, not taking away, but you are taking advantage of their efforts to produce those things, right? Okay, and so therefore, in that sense, you then owe a karmic debt to them. So that is why we try to eliminate that. Okay, so, but anyway, time is short, so let me continue on. Okay. So, okay, like I said, most of the 7 senior disciples are left and decide to ban their own Tao. And that's why today, many of these groups, you may hear of different groups. Some are old groups, okay, basically have their own, I don't know, senior disciples. But this is all still early, okay, because there's a latter group that came after also. But this is the first initial group that spread out. Okay, that sort of like left the 17 patriarch and did their own thing. Okay, so anyway, so in 1930, this is 6 years after they were following the matriarch. I mean the 17 patriarch's sister. Okay, and what happened was that because remember they didn't know how long they would follow, so they still continue to follow. But 6 years later, what happened was there was also another sand writing, where this time God introduced the I don't want to say marriage, but God introduced the mandate to be conferred upon a patriarch and a matriarch. So that is where it basically started, because prior to that it's all patriarchs, but it was only after that it became matriarch. Now, why did it occur 6 years later? It so happened that they said, okay, I don't remember the exact wording of the scripture, but it says it's because originally it was planned for 12 years that people would follow the 17 patriarchs' sister, but instead they said it is it is due to the unity. How do you translate? Let's see. It is due to the combining, I guess, of the yin and the yang, which then the time period got shortened from 12 years to 6 years. Because remember, 12 years is a typical what? Cycle. Right, it's a cycle. It's in fact in the 60-year, because how how they do calendar stuff, right? It's the full cycle is 60 years, but then it's 12 times. I mean, no, it's a combination, huh?
Yeah, 12 times 5.
Yeah, 12 times 5, because it has a combination. Remember how we do the word, how we do time? Because for example, like when we read the Dragon Document, we say 子亥, or well, today it's 子亥, remember it's the combination, right. It's those combination of two words, right. So it just so happened that the total combinations that you can get is 60. That's why it's 60 years. Okay, but the point is that it's how they use the heavenly, what they call it, the heavenly branches and the stems and the.
No, it's heavenly branches and earthly stems.
Earthly stems, right? Earthly stems and heavenly branches is a combination of those two that gives you the 60. Okay, so that's why the cycle always repeats every 60 years.
Right.
Every 60 years. Okay. So anyway, so it has something to do with that they had this I don't know, this combination that said, okay, it was originally planned for 12, but now it's going to cut down to 6 years. Okay, so that's what happened. Okay, and then so therefore, and also at that time, it was then when the heaven requested that both Si Zun, okay, or 18th patriarch, and Si Mu are to get the mandate. Now, Si Mu, okay, now I didn't talk much about Si Mu because the title is 18th patriarch, not matriarch, but Si Mu actually was a follower of the 17th patriarch. In fact, she got initiated out before Si Zun. Okay, and then it was during the time that when Si Zun began to follow the 17th patriarch that he met Si Mu, to be Si Mu, eventual 18th patriarch, a matriarch. Okay, so but then at that time they were just like Dao Kin, that's all. Okay, so but anyway, so it was then that it was told that they should. Now at first they were very reluctant because first of all, this is the first time that there's now a matriarch. Okay, prior to that, there was no matriarch. It was all patriarch. Okay, and number two is the fact that as part of the scripture, I mean, it's something like besides conferring to the the mandate to them, they are to be divinely married or something like that. Okay, and so therefore that was like, how can that be? Because Si Mu at that time was still unmarried, whereas Si Zun was already married, and in fact he had already second marriage, okay, happening. So and what happened then was that they were very hesitant to I guess to agree or to accept the mandate, and so therefore they still I guess at first they refused it, and so therefore, they still continue to, 办道 still. But then it, in the stories about how they finally agreed to do that was because of the fact that in many cases when they're traveling out, because remember traveling, it's at that time was not easy at that time. They were traveling to Bandao and all this stuff. They always find situations that they encounter each other many times. And also it is said that sometimes when these kids, that when they meet these kids, okay, or these children, that these children would jie chao, okay, and it would be the Buddhas and saints who jie chao and tell them, oh, you should accept this, blah, 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 etc. Okay, or encourage them to accept the heavenly mandate. Okay, so basically that's how the saints and Buddhas encouraged the 18th and 17th patriarch, 18th patriarch to receive the mandate. Okay, and the marriage was, according to some story, it was also the fact that, and this later interpretation was the fact that, okay, because once they receive the mandate, they sort of like have to cooperate in terms of bandao and all that stuff, and so therefore it required them to travel a lot together, and so therefore because of that you can't have a married person already and an unmarried person traveling, especially Chen Kun, right, ladies and female. So therefore the explanation was, oh, okay, they have to be married in name to do that. So, but anyway, that's sort of like later on interpretation of it. Okay, so anyway, so moving forward, in 1931, he moved out of Jining. Okay, remember, Jining is the city where the 17th patriarch was based on. Okay, and he traveled then to Jinan, which is a capital of Shandong province. Okay, now, and then there he established a temple called the Conghua Tang. Okay, and many of his followers became his apostles or disciples. Okay, and then under 18th patriarch, the Tao quickly spread out throughout northern China. Okay, because Shandong province it's more East China, but it's roughly northeast China. Okay, at that time, and then later on that there are more temples were established. Okay, and then in 1934, the 18th patriarch went to Tianjin. Okay, and established another temple there, and it became the base of propagation. Okay, so what's interesting is that during the time of 17th patriarch, most of the Tao was situated around Jining, okay, the city that he was based on. Okay, and then later on, when the 18th patriarch left Jining, when he went to the capital of Shandong province, because Jining is also in Shandong province, I believe. Okay, but yeah, right, and so therefore, he instead of that small town, he went to the major capital there. Okay, and then later on, he then went to Tianjin. Okay, it is only at Tianjin that the Tao, I guess you could say, became widespread. Okay, and what's very interesting about this is that if you look at the name Tianjin, okay, what does that mean? Okay, well, I mean it's a city, of course, but if you look at the word, Jing is like a harbor, a ferry, I guess, a ferry town or whatever, because what happens is that in it's 三点水 and 那个 Jing. Yeah, I think it means like harbor or something like that, Tianjin. Okay, and what's interesting is the fact that if heaven has a way of trying to, I don't know, work strangely, but in fact that if you Tianjin, that city, the name, okay, is like the harbor where heaven enters into the world, so to speak. Okay, so it was only because through Tianjin that the 18th patriarch and matriarch at that time established their base. Okay, and so therefore, and from there, literally, it became more widespread. Okay, now of course, perhaps it also has to do with the timing, because if you think about it, in 1934, that was literally the right before what we today call World War I. Two, excuse me, because 1939 was when Hitler invaded Poland. Okay, but that was the European. But in Asia, at that time, there was already some conflict between Japan and China. Okay, and so therefore, already at that time, they were trying to make, Japan was trying to take over a lot of, places in China, etc. And so therefore, it was really at that time that there was already beginning to have some, I don't know, I guess you could say chaos, okay, in terms of the war, okay. So anyway, the point is that it became a bit, okay, in 1937, Jin had over 100 temples, eventually down spread to various parts of China. Okay, so, Tianjin, yeah, right, Tianjin, okay. So in a period over 3 years, they actually had over 100 temples, okay. And therefore, and that's where it literally spread out, okay. And then, of course, during World War II and Japanese occupation, the political chaotic situation helped the Tao to grow very rapidly. And by 1940, Tao had already reached the southern province of Jiangxi. Okay, Jiangxi is sort of like, it's not South China, but it's above Guangzhou, Canton and all that stuff. But it's a landlocked province, okay. And what here is just trying to say is the fact that because of the war, okay, I guess in times of disaster, people tend to believe more in I mean, it's human nature, okay. So what happens that the Tao was being able to spread, and by 1946, which is basically when the the war was over, the followers had spread to Chengdu. Is in Sichuan province. Okay, Sichuan province. That's again also on, I guess you could say it's west of Jiangxi, and it's still near the southern part of China, but not exactly the southern part of China yet. Okay, so so after the war ended, 18 Patriarch visiting his followers in Chengdu, which is the main capital city of Sichuan. Okay, and there, one of the story goes the fact that as he visited the place, the resident or the Tao followers resident, he walked in. There was this garden, and in this garden, he saw a very unusual. I don't know. It just says a particularly unusual flower. Okay, that fell off its stem. Okay, and to some interpretation of it was saying that he realized that when he saw that, he realized that his time has come. His time was his time was up. It was his time or whatever. Okay, but again, that's later on when people interpret what he has said and all that stuff. But anyway, a short time later during his stay, he quickly became ill and was bedridden. Okay, and so during that time. Remember how today we have like a certain sand writing ceremonies at certain times of the day, certain times of the year. Okay, well, it just so happens he was there before the Mid-Autumn Harvest Festival, Zhongqiu, right? And so therefore, when he became bedridden and all that stuff, it was during the time Zhongqiu, and so therefore they. People, was concerned about his illness and all that stuff, wanting to get well. So of course they asked, Lao Mu through sand writing that, if he could get better and all that stuff. And again, the sutra on it, I only know bits of it, is the fact that it just said, literally in the sutra itself, God stated that his time will come at Zhongqiu. Okay, but you have to reread it many times. You go, oh, okay, you finally got it. Okay, because he mentioned about how something about the time of Zhongqiu. I don't know the exact translation of it, but the idea is the fact that God stated that it is his time. His time has come in the time of Zhongqiu. Okay, even though many people, when they read it superficially, said, oh, okay, yeah, he's going to get better because God had mentioned that he would get well. Okay, and in fact. As he was bedridden, as God was doing the sand writing, when the sand writing ended, the people realized, he passed. He passed. So, when basically, essentially, God took him back when the sand writing was done. Okay, so on the 18th patriarch passed away at the age of 59. So that was a fairly young age. Okay, so yeah. So anyway, basically, what I want to mention here is about why there's different groups today is because because first of all there was that first period of time when the 17th patriarch followers left, but also when the 18th patriarch passed away. Remember, there was supposed to be an 18th matriarch, right? But there were sort of like two contending groups, major groups. One was the people who follow the 18th matriarch, and those who follow Madame Liu, which is the wife of the 18th patriarch. Okay, and so therefore there was these two contending groups, and essentially today many of the groups that you hear about not many, some of the groups, don't recognize the 18th matriarch. Okay, instead they only, because a lot of the groups, if you like Zhendian's group in Burma or whatever, they only know about Sizun. They don't follow Simu. Okay, so that's why today you have that. Okay, and then the leadership, and basically it affects the leadership of the 18th matriarch, because 18th matriarch essentially had a smaller group, I guess you can call it that, who eventually came to Taiwan. So today in China, most of the if you do encounter any group, most of the groups, they would be the groups that really more follow Sizun or know about Sizun but don't recognize the Simu. Okay, and then also another mention I wanted to talk about is the fact that during the time of Sizun and Simu, there are something, today we have what's called Dharma classes, right? Okay, so in those days it was not called Dharma classes. That's the English name. It actually means Li Lu, Li Hui. Li is like Li is the same like this. That's Li, right? And then Lu is stove or oven. So you go huo pang, and then this, and then a tian, and then a huo. Okay, but anyway, and basically those are called Li Lu, Li Hui. And what's different about the Dharma class and Li Lu, Li Hui was the fact that it was not like where people, have presentations and classes and all that stuff. Rather, it was the saints and Buddhas who actually channeling to do the classes. And those classes are not like, these 2 days or whatever, or 3 days. They actually occur for like a week or a month. Okay, and also what's interesting factor is that when you participate in the class, once the time is done, all the doors are shut, because remember, you don't want people coming in. So all the doors are locked, whatever. You don't leave that hui or that, that class until it's over. Okay, and also you eat very simply and you sit very simply. You sit on benches and all that stuff. And the way that classes are conducted is when a Buddha or saint would channel, of any one of those participants, they would channel, and then they would then conduct classes, so talk about whatever, okay. And so therefore, usually when people attend those classes and they come out of it, they are very, very devoted to the Tao, because of the fact that they see it for themselves, etc. And also it's very convincing, I guess, instead of today where we just present classes on topics. Okay, and then also I want to mention about rules and regulations. There's a book called the 暂定佛规, the temporary rules and regulations. Remember, that was done in 1939. Okay, when after he got the mandate, because of the I guess Tao was being spread already, and remember the 17th patriarch had already spread the Tao. Okay, so he wanted to try to standardize on the rules and regulations that he was the Tao that he was practicing, and so therefore he asked it was, I think, one of the guardians to write the rules and regulations, but instead the guardian said no. It is something that humans have to practice. That is why humans should write it. And so that's why he ended up writing the the temporary rules and regulations. And what's very interesting about it is the fact that he had the foresight, I guess, to understand that, hey, it's not fixed, and so therefore he called it a temporary. And it was only later on in 2000 something that we have the final book, the red book, the rules and regulations, right? Okay. And again, it was Holy Teacher who came and said, okay, how you guys want to do it, etc., and eventually established that. Okay. And then also another thing about the Tao merit fee, how we today have to have $10 or whatever. Okay, well, actually, the Tao merit fee was something that was established. I asked Senior Transmitter Jin about it, but he wasn't quite sure about a date, and I couldn't find it, but or literature on it. But it was something that it was the one of the guardians dictated that what it should be. Okay, so today when we talk about the fact that how much should you have the merit fee and all that stuff, it was dictated at that time. Okay, but I don't know when that it should be a certain amount based on, of course, at that time was the currency of China or Taiwan. Okay, not the U.S. Okay, the currency. So, but it became standardized to just say 10. So that's how we came up with the number 10. Okay, so, but anyway. Okay, so time is up. So, so I hope there's a better understanding about the 18th Patriarch. I know that I didn't go through a lot of it, but hopefully, I guess you could find most of this literature. Some is on Google, some is on the basically the Yiguan Dao websites. Okay, so you could also find that for yourself. So anyway, I hope that we have this better understanding, and that if there was anything that I said incorrectly or wrong, I hope the saints and Buddhists will forgive me and correct me. Thank you very much.